All right, so we're going to start working on the AC here. First thing I got to do is I've got a couple of parts here on this side that I want to get out. One is the evaporator. There's a few reasons I want to take that out. One, I've got to change the O-rings on the lines. Two, there is the valve on the back that has an O-ring that I want to check. Three, I want to blow out the evaporator, flush out the evaporator. And four, I want to make sure the drain line is clean from there. And then also, I don't know if this is how it is on all early models, but there is a relay box over here with 3 relays for the AC. And one of them, when I was looking at it a long time ago, let's see if I can find it here real quick. Here it is. Was rusted. And that is broken off inside the relay box. It just rusted it off and broke it off inside. So I need to pull that relay box and clean that stuff up. So in order to get to all that, I've got to just take off this bottom panel and the glove box out, and I should be able to get to what I need to get to. All right, so we've got those 2 things off. So now you can see the evaporator. So there's some things that need to be disconnected from here. So there's this piece that's all rusted out, and then you can see there's the relay box. That needs to come out. There's one relay in there, and that actually runs this fan. So the way I understand it is the fan constantly runs. Even if you have it on 0, that fan in the front always runs. And that's because the power comes through, it goes through this relay, and it goes up to the fan. When you turn the AC on, it sends power, it shuts that relay off, and then starts running this fan. So that's how I understand this to work over here. But I've got to get that out in order to clean it out so I can get the relays back in. I bought a new one. So, pretty rusty under here. I don't know if you can kind of see that fan is all rusted. But I have a spare of all of this down in the basement that I bought when I bought that spare fan up there for like $100. It included everything. So I've got an expansion valve. I've got I don't know if I've got the air or not. I'm gonna have to look to see if I have that or not. I'm not 100% sure. And then I got a spare evaporator core and everything. So it's just a matter of kind of figuring out, because there's no videos on this, on how to get it off. There's some grounds up there that need to come off. The bolt there to get this part off, but I've got a spare one of these that I bought. When I saw that it was all rusted and everything, I figured that's not going to be any good, so I'll just buy a spare of those. And then I can hopefully get this relay box that's up in there out, and get the hoses off. A couple of bolts right there, and then I think the whole thing just slides out. I think is how it works. So we will have to see. We'll take a gander at it. Well, it's out. Not without the war wound. Well, what do you think? Think that need to be replaced? I don't think that was going to work. So we'll attend to this, and we'll do a side-by-side. All right, here we go with the side-by-side comparisons. So this is a little rusty still on the replacement one, but even just this is not rusty. A little bit of rust on the top of the fan shroud. Maybe I'll clean that up. But this was rusted on. I ended up breaking this trying to get that off. So I think I'm just going to swap them out. The only problem is this one has a hole down here in the bottom, and this fan shroud is broken. So the bottom one of this one is okay. So I think I'm going to try to get the bottom one off of that and put it on here and see if I can swap those two things out. It doesn't look too hard. It looks like a couple of screws and some clips. This one might be a little more difficult. The screws, I noticed there was one, it was pretty rusty. But all in all, I think we're okay. And there's that expansion valve that's in the back that I wanted to get to, because there's an O-ring on there that needs to be addressed for it. And that way, also opening it up, I can go ahead and I can blow out that evaporator. I think I'm going to just go ahead and use this evaporator. It's got to be better than what's in here. I mean, they'll both be apart, so we'll both be able to take a look at both of them. But yeah, so it really was not that hard to get out. It was really only like 5 bolts and just kind of wiggling it out and everything, but it really was not that bad. Putting it in, though, I think is going to be a pain in the butt. But we'll just deal with that when we go to put it back in. Alright, well, here's what it looks like on the inside. The evaporator actually does not look all that bad. But there's no way that would work. But I think instead of trying to take that all apart and do all that, you know, since this is all rusty, this looks so much better. You know, and I think moves a lot more freely. This does. Compared to this. I think I'm just going to use that. I'll just get the bottom off of this one and put the bottom of this on that, and we will be good to go. And I'll save this evaporator just in case. But there's that expansion valve that we need to get off. There's O-rings in there that we need to get to. So we'll do that on this one. All right. So here's the comparison of these two. This is the replacement one that I got. So kind of a poor design if you ask me, because this top plate, it sits like this in the car, but this top plate goes inside the case. Why you wouldn't put it so it's outside the case, so if there is water that gets on it, it runs outside the case, not down and into it. So I can only imagine what the inside of that looks like. You know what? Looks like there's just little tabs that you can pull up if I don't snap them off. Maybe I'll try to open that. We'll take a look inside this. So that's what the inside looks like. I don't know, maybe we'll try to pull this board up. I don't want to really break it, but maybe I'll try to lift that board up a little bit. But there's a board inside there, but you can see it's all rusty all over the board. You know? So I'm hoping this other one doesn't look like that. I'm not going to open it up, but let's see if we can get that board off. There's what it looks, some capacitors, things like that in there. It actually doesn't look too bad inside there. You know, on the bottom side, that still looks pretty clean and good. I mean, who knows if it works? I have no idea how to test this, but I mean, the top of the board, I've got to imagine. I don't know. And there's solder points. Doesn't look like anything's loose. So, I mean, it could still work, I guess. But we'll just replace it with the cleaner one since I've got it. All right. So we know the drain plug is clean. I fed a fish or a wire through it. Couldn't see it on the bottom, so I took this, filled it with some water, stuck this in there, put the plunger down, And I've got water underneath. So I know my drain hose is clean. So that's good. All right, so we're gonna start working on cleaning stuff out. So we went and got some flush and clean for the AC system. We got borrowed this from AutoZone so we can hook it up to the compressor. And then we also borrowed the vacuum pump. So you get 90 days on those tools to bring them back. So, which will be more than enough time to do what I want to do here. So we got to work on getting off the expansion valve. Will be the first thing we need to do, because we need to be able to blow through this, and we won't be able to with the expansion valve on there. So we'll work on getting that off first. Alright, so the expansion valve is taken apart. Still sealed. There's still oil in there even. But here's these O-rings. See how these are the black ones on here? And those need to be replaced by the green ones. So I would assume there's one in there too. Can't really see up in there, but we'll take a look and we'll get that one out as well, and we'll replace them with the green ones. So now I can blow through this line, and I can blow through that line that should come out over there. So I guess we can get the compressor and everything hooked up. Oh, just so you know, this was a 17. That was a 22 with the 17 hooked onto here to break it. So those were the two sizes that you needed to get that expansion valve off. So we went and flushed it out. No big deal. You just hook it up, put it in, and it squirts out. Nothing really to explain there. I got the black O-rings out. I've replaced them with the green ones. So we can go ahead and we can hook this expansion valve, I keep forgetting the name of it. Go ahead and hook that back up, and this is cleaned out. I can just show you. There was a little bit of nasty stuff in there, but it really wasn't too bad. As you can see, it just ended up spraying everywhere. I tried getting it in the bucket as best I could. But it's like an oily substance. It's supposed to be quick drying. It's what it says on the package, but we shall see. But this part is now flushed out and cleaned. So the next thing we need to do is make sure that the fan works. So we got it hooked up. And it works. Yay, yay, yay. All right, we're all back together. This cushion, it kind of had a sticky stuff, so it was stuck together. I don't know, I got the other one off. But once I took it off, it was no longer really sticky. So I just decided to go ahead and put some zip ties around it to kind of hold it together. I think that'll work. But it's all back together. Now we need just to start working on these lines. I could disconnect that high pressure line. So that's the high pressure line that's going into the car. The problem is, man, this stuff just goes everywhere. So I'm afraid when I squirt it, it's going to go everywhere. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for the kid to get home and then put a bag over it so it sprays into a bag. I think might be the way to go with that. So I think we'll just wait on that for right now. So we are testing the electrical now. So I have put the relays in. So now when I turn the AC on, you can hear it starts my fan. See if I can do this or not. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this with one. I had it for a second. Well, you can see it's getting a reading. It's like 11.24 volts. So I'm hoping that's enough to get the fan going. But yeah, seems to be working. So happy days. So we just got to keep flushing the lines. All right. So we got a few more pieces in. We got our brand new condenser in. We got our low pressure switch in. And the compressor is supposed to be here today. So that would be all the parts that I have ordered. So we are going to work on flushing out the rest of those lines and work on getting the condenser and stuff in today. Another part has arrived, so new dryer for it. All right, condenser is out. I took the bumper off. It was just easier to get to everything, and I got lucky. These things, well, these brackets, this is spot welded to them, but spot welds come loose, so the condenser came out. But these have got a nut that's up inside here, so it's up inside here. And I've heard horror stories of those breaking or rusting out, and you can't get to them. You end up having to cut out to get to it. But I had lucky, both of mine came out. So the new condenser will attach to this, and that's what holds it in place. So, let's see. Got this line out, got the dryer out, got the high pressure line flushed. I got to get the low pressure line off of the compressor to flush that out from the inside. Then I'm done flushing from the inside, and then hopefully the compressor comes today and we can put that back in, and yeah, be able to try to draw a vacuum today. But we're moving right along. So the compressor is out. This is the high pressure line that goes into the condenser, so we'll have to get that off of there. Low pressure line is off. It's still under there that goes into the car, so I've got to now flush that out. And then flush out this line, flush out that line, and then my lines are done, and everything that I have that needs to be flushed will be flushed. Got to take that switch off, put the new one on. I will have to get these manifolds off of here because that is what the new one does not come with, the manifolds. So I have to reuse these, but that's fine. I mean, it's nothing wrong with the manifolds. And yeah, I think we'll be good to go from there. So it's probably a good thing I decided to redo that. Look at all that rust. So, blowing out the lines, but yeah, it's all rusted. Blew out the lines, there's a bunch of rust that came out of there, but we'll go ahead and flush those. Hopefully they stay clean. I don't need to replace it. If that's the case, I'll have to figure out how to do that. Alright, so we've got all the lines flushed out. This one was pretty dirty, and I finished my flush. It looked pretty clean, but I am going to go and just get a can of the AC flush and just run that through it just to be sure. But it was clear when it came out at the end, but it was pretty dirty. So I just want to make sure. And then we should be good to go. I'm still waiting on my compressor. The mail came and it wasn't in there, but who knows? We'll see. It's supposed to be delivered today. Alright, new condenser is in. So that is a good start. Still waiting on the compressor, but we can let's see, what can we do now? Oh, we could get the evaporator and stuff back in the car. We could work on that since we've got the lines blown out. I just got to do the O-rings on the lines in here, and then we'll work on getting that back in. Alright, evaporator is back in and everything's hooked back up. So we're going to leave it, the glove box and that bottom piece off till we make sure everything works. But yeah, so that part is done. The rebuilt compressor came in, and we'll go ahead and open it up and see what we got. Alright, so a couple of things. So there was enough oil for the compressor, but it says to check the label on the compressor for the exact amount. And there's no label on here saying exactly how much they put in. So I have no idea what they put in the compressor. I looked up online how much is supposed to be in the system total, but I have no idea of what was put into the compressor. And of course it's Sunday and they're not open. So I don't know that, and I need to go out and buy some PAG oil. I'm assuming that's what was put in because that's what's on the description. And then second, this is the wrong connector. So if you see, this is the female side. That is a male. So they put the wrong connector on there for my car as well. So that will have to be addressed as well. Looks what they did is they took off the correct one and soldered on the wrong one. Idiots. So now I guess I'll just cut this, cut that, solder on the correct one. I'll double check under there, but I'm pretty sure that's the male end that's under there. So let's take a quick look under the car. And there it is right there. So yes, it is a male end. So looks like we do a little soldering. All right, soldering job is done. It's in there solid. We'll go ahead and we'll put the shrink wrap around it. And that part will be fixed then. Alright, the new compressor is in. My 134A conversion is in. If you notice, I had to grind down the alternator bracket a little bit so it wouldn't hit. And that's a common thing. I tried using this. It was way too big, but I had gotten that one. So just had to shave some off. So I've got some clearance all the way around. And I will just zip tie this to here. And that's it. Belt's nice and tight. So that should be good to go. I just got to plug this in. And that'll be good to go up there. I'm going to put the new dryer in. I'll attach the line from the inside, and I'm still waiting to hear if I can find that other line, a better one somewhere. But this is hooked up to the condenser up here. And we'll get this bracket on. But as soon as I get the dryer and I get that other line on, technically we can go ahead and drive the car because everything else will be sealed up. I'll tape this bottom one, the cap on there or something, just to make sure that that stays sealed. But yeah, and then the only line will be from the condenser to the dryer, and then we can start pulling a vacuum. So just about done. All right, so the dryer is in. Air box is back on. So as you notice that line, so that's the line from the condenser to the dryer, which is this one, which I'm trying to find a new used one because that one was really dirty. So if I can find a new used one that's in better shape, I'll use that because they don't make those anymore. So, but the system now is sealed because that has the cap on it, and then the condenser, I left the plastic cap on it and I just rolled it up with some duct tape to hold it on there to keep that sealed until we can get that line on. But he should be able to go ahead and drive the car. Everything should be good to go. And yeah, we'll just have to wait for that. So I went and tried to find another one of these because this one was really dirty. I couldn't find one, so I ended up just getting a couple more of these. And that's what's coming out. It's all clear and clean now. So I'm happy with that. We'll go ahead and just use this one. All right, all the lines are on, everything's hooked up. So now we got to pull a vacuum. So I got to pull out my gauges and the vacuum, get that all ready, and cross our fingers that we can pull a vacuum on this system. Alright, so I've been pulling for about 15 minutes now, and it's not dropping below. But the thing is it was at like 15 when it started. I don't know how there would be any pressure in the system to begin with. If everything was open, it should have been at 0. So it pulled it down, and it's been sitting at 0 this whole time. It just won't drop below. But I don't understand why it would start at 15 when there's no pressure in the system to begin with, since it was all completely open. I don't understand that, unless there's something wrong with my gauges. I mean, when the pump started pulling, you could see the vapors and stuff coming out of the pump. So it was pulling the moisture out of the system. So I don't know. Something doesn't seem right to me with this. I might just try charging it and seeing what happens. And see if that does anything, or if it's able to hold the charge. But then at the very least, I'll put some dye in it. And if there is leaking, I'll be able to see where it leaks. But it's just weird that the needle hit 0, it went down to 0, and I mean, it's just staying there. It's not moving at all. And I've tried to turn the pump off and close the valve, and it just sits at 0 then. So I'll let it go for like an hour, since the system was all completely open and everything, but just weird. I went ahead and got some of those PAG 46 with the dye in it, so I can see if there's any leaks. So we just picked up some 134A. So this is the bulletin. The technical service bulletin came out retrofitting R12 to 134. So the oil is supposed to be 270 milliliters. I think I got 266 in there, close enough. R134A capacity is 1,200 or 1,020 grams, which comes out to, if I remember correctly, it's like 34 ounces. So that is basically 3 cans, a little less. So, yeah, well, actually, I think it came out to like 35 point something, if I remember correctly. I'll do the math again, just to know, but it's real close to 3 cans. So, yeah, the way I added the dye, I didn't film it. I just took this off of here, took the Schrader valve out, turned the vacuum on, pulled the vacuum, it was sucking. Sucked up the dye, or the oil in here, Put it up to, was just like 115, between 115 and 120. 118 milliliters was 4 ounces. So yeah, it was right around there, and then just pushed it into that because the vacuum was sucking it in, and it just sucks it into the system. So I think what we'll do is I think we're going to let the car down. We're going to go ahead and start it and start filling and see what happens. Okay, so we're going to measure a couple of ways here. So the only thing I'm hoping is that that vent opens up. I haven't tried it yet to see if it does when I turn the AC on. But we've got that and we've got this. We're going to see what the temperatures are. So let's go ahead and start the engine. Temperature is. See, this isn't opening up. It should open up like that. So I guess we'll just have to hold it here for a second. Let's say. Try to get it to where it'll. It's 89 degrees. Let's go ahead and start adding some Freon. So I put some Freon in it, and all my leaks are from right in here. So I've been trying to tighten these down. I think I got those tightened down, but I don't know. I think the compressor, or not the compressor, the condenser might have a leak in it, because I'm getting stuff down in here. I'm cleaning it off, and then I still am getting it. I don't see it leaking out of here anymore or here anymore. But I might need to go get another can of Freon and try to get that in. But it was not blowing any cold air at all. So, and then also that vacuum pump to open up the vent is not opening. So the blower works, so once I manually push it, you can feel the air come through the vents. So I don't know if it's the valve itself, or if it's the little switch that's supposed to probably open up and allow the vacuum to go through. So yeah, we'll have to play with that too. I mean, I leaked out quite a bit going through this, so I'm sure it's probably low on Freon. So I'll probably just go get another can and do that, but I think I'm done for the day. Yeah. Kind of disappointed that all those things weren't tight enough. I thought for sure they were. And I'm hoping that this condenser is not bad. I'm hoping it's just the stuff that was coming out and leaking out and just working its way down and through from where the fittings were. But we'll get the car back down, we'll get the bumper on, and we'll try again maybe next weekend. Alright, we're working on the AC still. So that light there, I got hooked up to the compressor. So I know the compressor is on. There's power going to it. My low pressure is fine. It might be a little bit high. It should be about 40 with what the temperature is out today, but so it might be just a little high. The problem I'm having is I'm not building any high pressure in the system at all. This is where it sits. It just won't build the high pressure. So, what I have read is that if your low pressure is okay and your high pressure is low, that the compressor is not compressing the refrigerant to a high enough pressure, and that the compressor is bad, and that's a brand new replacement compressor. So that shouldn't be the case. So I think that refurb compressor is bad. So I'm gonna have to call the company and find out what's going on with that. But once I shut the car off, the pressures will drop just a little bit, but they hold steady. It's not like it goes away right away. So I think I got everything tightened back up the way that it should be. So I have a feeling I'm gonna have to replace that compressor and redo the system again. So, but at least I won't have to add oil, because there should be oil in the system, I'm hoping, of what was in there. So that'll be the next step. All right, so I evacuated the system, and I'm pulling a vacuum again. And again, even with nothing on, it was sitting at like 20 psi, just the needle by itself. Same thing with the high pressure. So I pulled the vacuum and it vacuumed it down to 0, and it's holding steady at 0. And I'm like, well, you know, do I have a leak? So what I did was I went down underneath and I closed the low side off down below, and it didn't move the needle. So it's not able to either vacuum down low enough, or there's something wrong with my gauges, or the vacuum's not strong enough. But for some reason it's just not getting below 0. And like I said, it was starting at above 0, just the gauges just sitting there normally with nothing even hooked up to it. So I think the gauges are off. So I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. If I close this off completely at the other end, that should cause a lot of vacuum in this line, and it should drop below. But it's not. That's where it's staying. So I'm going to try this again. And we'll have to go get a couple more cans of refrigerant. But I'm going to leave this vacuuming here for a little bit. Maybe I'll run and get them. Maybe I'll wait about a half an hour longer. It's been about 15 minutes. And I'll close these. And I'll see. That way I got to return this vacuum pump. It's been a while since I've had it. So, and we'll try to just refill the system again. I don't know why it just won't build pressure. But now that I think about it, if I had this at 40 and it was sitting at like almost 20 without anything in it, that was really only 20 pounds of pressure that was in it. So I think I'm going to take into account whatever that is and go 40 above what it is when I go to start putting stuff in. So we will see. Also to note, when I came back out here the next day, today, from fooling around with this yesterday, my high pressure and my low pressure were both exactly where they were when I left yesterday. So over the course of the night, it didn't lose any pressure in the system. So I'm not convinced that there's a leak in there anymore. There was up here in the front, but it held the pressure that was in there. So I'm not convinced that there's a leak in the system, because the pressure was the same as it was yesterday, and it's more than 24 hours since I unplugged it yesterday. So I don't know. All right, so here is my Pittsburgh gauges. And as you can see, nothing's hooked up, but I still have pressure in my gauges. So I don't think those are right. So I went and bought a new set. Got a different pump. So I am now drawing a vacuum on my system the way that it should be. So we're going to let this go for about 2 hours or so. And then I think we'll try to charge it and see what happens this time. Alright, so it's been a couple hours that it's been on the vacuum, so we are going to turn the vacuum off and we're going to see if it holds. So hang on to your butts. Let's turn this, close this, and we'll close this. And we'll go ahead and turn off our pump. And we'll come back in an hour and see how we do. Nothing's dropping right away, so there's not some huge leak or anything. So we will see. So here we are, about an hour later. And we are still holding all the pressures. Didn't drop at all. So that is good news. So I think we are going to start to, you know what? I think I'm going to run the vacuum again just for about another half hour, 45 minutes, just to make sure everything is out. And then once that is done, we will go ahead and add the Freon. We have now pulled the vacuum for another 45 minutes. So I think it's time to try to get some refrigerant into this system and see if we can get it to work. So I'm happy that it pulled the vacuum. I'm happy that it held the vacuum. Let's just see if we can get this last bit done and get some cold air coming out of this beast. So we have cold air coming out. That's down to 68. So there's cold air. It's not as cold coming out of this vent, which I don't understand why. Well, I guess it is. 69, 70 degrees. I mean, I still have some Freon to add, but that is a win. All right, that is looking pretty damn good. Right around, so it's like 95 degrees out. So it's right around like 48 and about 225 on the high. I am fine with that. I am fine with that. Let's see what the temperature says. We are down to 61 degrees. Right? Or is that 67? 67. 68 degrees. I'm okay with that. That's better than 95. So we are going to call that a success. So we're out for a little drive. We're down to 58 degrees, 59 degrees. Temperature is right about where it normally is. So we're just driving along. We'll see how it goes. We're down to 48 degrees. I will definitely take that. Temperature is doing just fine. So we've been out driving for about 10 minutes now. Thing seems to be going a little belt squeal, but I think that's probably because it's just pulling a little bit more. It kind of goes away. I'll have to keep an eye on that. But all in all, pretty good. 47.4 degrees, 47.3. Gotta love it.